Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle and today I want to talk about a topic which is a little bit philosophical, but I want to use personality archetypes in order to describe certain social phenomena that are happening right now as a potential way to explain them and to consider how we might resolve these issues. Well, I believe them to be issues. You might not believe them to be issues, and that's what this conversation is all about. So we can identify what really is an issue and what really is something that just can't be helped. So without further ado, let's just dive into the topic because it's a doozy. What I want to talk about today is cognitive dissonance at a society level. And what I mean by cognitive dissonance is that there is a disconnect between what you believe and what you perceive, and this causes disconnect. You can't have both ideas functioning at the same time. One's wrong, one's right. You believe one's right, other people believe the other's right. They can't both possibly exist at the same time because it would be logically inconsistent for the two to coexist. A topic has been going around the booktube sphere recently about cancel culture. And cancel culture is something that I have been thinking about a lot over the last year especially. I mean, it's always been something at the back of my mind. It kind of irks me a little bit, but at the end of the day, I've been trying to evaluate what exactly it is about cancel culture that causes so much cognitive dissonance. I'm gonna say a huge, stinking disclaimer that I do not mean that cancel culture equals this cognitive function that I'm talking about. In no way am I saying they are the same thing. But what I am going to say is that I'm going to use this cognitive function to explain where the dissonance comes from. And the system that I'm using to describe these things specifically is the objective personality system, which is slightly different from MBTI. It is a subgroup of MBTI, but they define things slightly differently. If you would like to learn more about how they describe the cognitive functions, I will link down below and up in the corner something for you to check out. So with all that being said, I believe that cancel culture is a result of cognitive dissonance with extroverted feeling. In the objective personality system, extroverted feeling is group morals. This is the morals of the tribe. And introverted feeling is the morals of the self, ignoring the morals of the tribe. Well, what is cancel culture? Cancel culture is where people, as a group, decide that the moral actions of one is not okay. They decide that it doesn't match the moral standards that they, as a group, have, which, again, extroverted feeling in objective personality is tribe morals, and they decide to take action against that. There's nothing inherently wrong with the concept of cancel culture, but the dissonance comes from the fact that most of us don't 100% align with the group morals. We all have our individual morals that might differ from societal's morals. For example, one person might believe that no one should say anything negative ever at all, and to say anything negative is to put down somebody else. Another person might argue that freedom of speech is vitally important, and the only way that you can approach an issue is if you know it exists, and the only way you can know it exists is if somebody talks about it. Now, these are two conflicting morals. These are two conflicting morals that, when put together, cannot coexist. One of them must be wrong, and that is where cognitive dissonance exists. Because the question then becomes, are they both wrong? Are there situations where one might be right and one might be wrong? Well, society as a whole, we're talking millions, if not billions of people, cannot perceive with such nuance in each situation. They must simplify it in order to communicate and be on the same page as many other people. If we evaluate cancel culture and the moral standards that it sets, it's not consistent. Cancel culture could be as simple as calling out someone who really deserves to be called out because they have brutally hurt somebody else. Cancel culture could also be cutting someone out from any social advancement because they're friends with somebody who has some kind of morally incorrect view. Right now, as a society, we are attempting to calibrate. We are attempting to calibrate our extroverted feeling as a society. Again, group morals. As a society, we're trying to figure out what those are. Never before in human history have we been so connected. Just as a side point, at my Discord server, we have representation of over 50 countries. That's 50 countries around the world who all speak different languages that are connected together through the same idea of MBTI. We all have different cultures. We all have different views on what is right and wrong. And this creates dissonance even within a small group such as a Discord server. Right now, society is calibrating on the largest scale we have ever had on something that is nearly impossible to fully calibrate on, because there's always going to be people in situations that don't fit the one-size-fits-all answer. Now the question then becomes, is this a good or bad thing? But can it be simplified so much as to ask if it's a good or bad thing? Often on the internet we hear arguments for both sides of whether cancel culture is good or bad, but cancel culture is more complicated than good or bad. Cancel culture is an example of an extroverted feeling, ethical situation that we then have to, as a group, calibrate and decide. Again, there will be cognitive dissonance, and we will never agree. It is impossible to agree because there are always people who will have individual morals that don't match the group. The fear that we all share wrapped around this is that if we can't agree, how can we move forward? If we can't agree, what happens when cancel culture comes at me? How will I react? Will it be justified? Will it be fair? We can never say cancel culture is bad or cancel culture is good. It's neither and both at the same time. This is the problem with the idea of ever having a solid group ethics. There will always be exceptions, and there will always be people who don't agree with the group. So how do we handle this as society? That's my question. That's the question I don't have the answer to. It's obvious to me that it's neither good nor bad. It's obvious to me that there are qualities within it that I like and dislike. But those qualities I might not agree with everyone on. You might have a different idea of what is good and what is bad within the cancel culture. You and I might agree on one aspect and we might vastly disagree on another subject. But one thing at the fundamental core of all of this is humans are not the cognitive functions. Humans are not the dissonance we create. Humans are the ones experiencing and feeling the dissonance. We are the ones who have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis, deal with the fear of cancel culture, deal with the burden of having to act upon cancel culture, dealing with the drive to be part of cancel culture and to help make social change for the positive, or to be a troll and be part of cancel culture because it's fun. There's so many different aspects of it that it can never fully be agreed upon or even fully discussed with proper nuance. Because of this, it causes dissonance not only in a group atmosphere, so the extroverted feeling, the group morals, has dissonance. Your introverted feeling has dissonance as well. Your individual morals have dissonance with the group. Your individual preferences and moral beliefs will never fully align with the group, just as the group will never fully align with itself. So how do we move forward from this? How can we become more comfortable with each other? Well, I do believe that the answer lies within the opposite cognitive function. So in the case of extroverted feeling, The opposite cognitive function, the part that supports it, is introverted thinking. We must, for ourselves, decide what we want to agree with the group on and what we do not, in a calm and logical way. That being said, we also need to allow space for ourselves to have our individual moral stances that are FI driven. We just believe it's better to do this over the other. What I mean to say through all of this conversation is, I want to see us have more nuanced discussions. I want us to be more empathetic to the fact that everyone thinks for themselves. Everyone makes their own decisions. And some people lean more into the group decisions and some people lean more into their own decisions. But at the end of the day, it is a decision to go with the group, and it is a decision to go with your own decision. Decisions are not set in stone. You might be pretty resolved in your decision, but at the end of the day, decisions are not set in stone. Who you are as a person is not set in stone. And with that fundamental logic in mind, every other human makes decisions that are not set in stone, and is a person who, at the fundamental core, is not set in stone. The only way that we can find relief from this cognitive dissonance that we all feel to some degree or another, you might not hardly be affected at all by cancel culture. You might not think about it at all. Or you might be someone who's been tragically and deeply affected by cancel culture. Wherever you are on this spectrum, you're a human. And the people that you interact with on a daily basis, whether or not they share the same views on cancel culture, they're humans too. And the only way that we can ever find peace with this cognitive dissonance we're creating for ourselves by being humans trying to work together is to actually try to work together on an individual level, and to recognize and to accept that other people make decisions on their own, and you're not in charge of their decisions. You can try to convince them of your opinion, and you can try to lay out very clear, logical reasoning for them, but they don't have to agree. Right now, as I say all this, there's going to be someone out there that doesn't agree with me. And you know what? That's fine. I'm not always perfect. I'm not going to know everything 100%. You're not going to know everything 100%. As the man Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. When you can accept that you don't know all the information, and you approach the other person with genuine curiosity towards their point of view, you can have a huge impact and ability to convince them of your side. Or, with that open mind and open heart, you might be convinced of their side. And there's nothing wrong with that. We rest a lot of our identity upon what we believe and what we think is morally true, but at the end of the day, that's going to change. It might only change a smidgen, or it might change fundamentally, but it's not set in stone, just like you're not set in stone. And if we can accept that, and as a group work together, I think that there is a huge amount of potential for humankind. So, I guess all this is to say, regardless of what someone's type is, regardless of what someone believes morally or about what society should be doing or whether cancel culture is good or bad, the conversations should recognize that each person is individual. And although they might align with the group to some degree, they have their own opinions too. So I urge you to, rather than jumping to conclusions, first, find out what they think. Find out what they know. Approach them. Figure it out. And if you're really that mad that they've done something horrendous and you can't sit by, it's your right to say something about it. And it is your right to say you want other people to join you. But it's everyone else's right to decide whether or not they join you. I'm gonna hop right off that soapbox now, and I'm gonna say thank you guys so much for watching. I know that this is a little bit heavier, it's a little bit weirder. I'm kind of trying to force it into MBTI though. At the same time, I do believe fundamentally in the objective personality system, these words do describe quite well what's going on. I'm really just trying to get us to communicate better. I want us all to communicate well. I want us to be able to say what we want to say, and for the other person to listen without being offended. And it's okay to be offended by things. It's okay to not like what other people say. But open dialogue is how we change things. If you don't like what someone else has to say, you're not going to change them by being pissed at them, that's for sure. You know what is going to happen if you're pissed at them? World War III. Okay, that's a little extreme. I said I was going to step off the soapbox, and then I climbed myself right back up onto that soapbox to tell you guys off for some reason. Like, you guys even need to be told off. Like, I don't even know. You and I, we might share similar views. You and I, we might not need to disagree at all. And I might be sitting on my soapbox preaching to the choir. But you know what? This is my freedom of speech. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please tell me your thoughts down below. While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can have more of these conversations. I want to talk about cognitive dissonance as it relates to the other cognitive functions as well. So if you'd like to see those, definitely subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you know when I post. And otherwise, whatever you do, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day.